Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So not too long ago, I saw a video that this black woman did where she was basically saying that black men commit the most crime. Now I'm going to do a video response to that, just solely focusing on the substance of her assertions. But for this video right here, I want to address like the underlying issue. What you have here is another example of one of these bitter, butthurt, angry black women who has been unsuccessful in their love life. And what they're doing is they're lashing out at all black men. And they lash out by, deciding to demonize the black man and to elevate the white man. These people, because of their relationship issues and their poor choices, what they want to do is attack and bash black men as a collective. So a lot of these people have embraced this notion that the black man is basically the devil and the white man is God. So, despite the fact that the majority of black men are not out here engaged in drug dealing and violence, despite the fact that the majority of black men are not committing crimes, you have this woman trying to paint black men as a collective, as a violent group of people. And what that is just another example of stereotyping. It's another example of racism. It's another example of prejudice. And the sad thing about it, this isn't coming from a white man or a white woman. This is coming from a black woman. And this is a manifestation of self-hatred. So you had this woman basically demonizing black men, basically saying the black man is the devil for all intents and purposes. The black man is so evil, and this white man is all this and all that, and he's the best option for black women. That's what these people that espouse this kind of animosity towards black men say, for the most part. That's what they are saying, whether they're saying it explicitly or implicitly. That's the message that they're conveying. Now, when it comes to black men, what they do is they collectively judge black men. What they do is they attribute the criminality of individuals to the entire collective group of black men. But when it comes to white men, these same people don't pass that kind of judgment towards white men. They don't collectively condemn white men. They don't collectively judge white men. Despite the fact that when you look at some of these crimes like mass shootings, you will see that the majority of those crimes are committed by white men. When you look at these serial killers, the majority of these serial killers are white men. Whether we're talking about Ted Bundy or we're talking about Jeffrey Dahmer, there are examples after example after example of white men who are serial killers. And you have, again, the situation of these mass shootings. You look at Columbine, you look at that Las Vegas shooting, you look at the shooting that took place in Connecticut where you had that guy go into a elementary school and start killing innocent children for no reason at all. When you look at Dylan Roof, a white man who went into a black church and killed 9 people, what happens is these people are judged as individuals. They don't judge white men as a collective, despite the fact that white men are more likely to be mass shooters, more likely to be serial killers. And then when you just look at like violence in terms of the Oklahoma City bombing that took place years ago, where you had one of these white terrorists kill over 100 people. Nobody said, well, let's collectively judge white men because of that. And then aside from those modern day examples, all you have to do is look back at history. When you look at the violence perpetrated by this white man, whether we're talking about the genocide against the native people, where millions of native indigenous people were literally wiped out by this white man. Not only did he kill the native people using guns and stuff like that, he used disease diseases against them. You know, it was an early form of chemical and biological warfare that this white man waged against the native people, wiping them out and stealing their land. And then when you look at the enslavement of African people, the fact that this white man enslaved black people, and during the Middle Passage, thousands upon thousands of black people died. Some estimate that millions of black people died during the Middle Passage. You know, black people were brutally oppressed under slavery, beaten, castrated, raped, and all kinds of things. But this white man gets a pass in the eyes of this demented black woman who is so enamored and so in love with whiteness and has such hatred and hostility towards her own black man. So you have that example. Then you have Jim Crow, the Jim Crow era that our people went through, where this white man would lynch black people and would be entertained by the lynching of black people. They would lynch black people as if it was a sporting event. You would have large crowds of people, and as black bodies were hanging in trees, these people, these demented demons, had smiles on their faces. While black bodies were burning on fires, in fires, you had pictures of these white people gathered around enjoying themselves, being amused at the burning of black flesh, being amused by that. You look at the crimes that this white man has committed, not only in America, but on the African continent, pillaging the continent of its resources, exploiting the people. You look at King Leopold and the atrocities he committed, the thousands upon thousands of black people he killed, you know, disfiguring people, amputating people's limbs and all that kind of stuff. But oh no, you know, this white man is not collectively judged. When you look at the violence that this white man has done throughout history, World War I, World War II, when you look at the fact that he dropped a bomb on Japan, killing over 100,000 people. But this white man doesn't get judged as a collective. He gets judged as an individual. And then when you look at this violence that plagues the black community, this violence and crime that people want to complain about, and rightfully so, it's a major problem. When you look at the violence that takes place in black communities, you know, black people are like 13% of the population, but like 52% of people who are arrested for murder are black people. That's a very disturbing statistic. But when you look at crime and the factors that create crime, you have to look at this society as a whole. You have to look at the fact, again, that this crime is not something that most black people are engaged in. It's a minority of black people who are engaged in this criminal activity. That's for one. And most of the crime is concentrated in poor areas where people are deprived of an opportunity to get a higher education, areas where people have few job prospects, areas where all kinds of problems are occurring, areas that are flooded with guns and drugs. All those things, all those factors contribute to the crime that we see in these communities. If you put any other group of people under similar conditions, under similar circumstances, you will see similar results. And despite all this hostility that this person has towards, you know, black crimes that occur and stuff like that, they don't want to deal with the source of the problem. Of course, you have to deal with personal responsibility, obviously, but you also have to deal with a society that has neglected large segments of American society, large segments of the black community. But they don't want to touch that. Instead, what they want to do is demonize the black man, bash the black man, even though it's the conditions in this society that this white man controls and has, you know, influence over, that are impacting and generating, helping to generate this crime that we see. So this is the first part. This is just an introduction, expressing some of my views about this whole issue about black people and crime, and this effort to attack the black man, this effort to paint this picture that somehow this white man is some kind of knight in shining armor. This idea that this white man is some kind of god and the black man is the devil. And the fact of the matter is, man, your personal issues aren't going to be solved by running to the white man. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to have to do some self-evaluation and look at yourself, look at your own flaws and faults. So, and before I go, I'll just say this. I mean, it's one thing for someone to say, well, I want to open up my options. I don't want to just limit myself to one race of men. I want to look at people's character and their personality traits. It's quite another thing for someone to say, I hate black men, basically. I want to attack black men. I want to discredit black men. I want to demonize black men in order to justify going outside of the race. And I want to encourage as many black women to hate black men as well. That is an example of self-hatred. That is an example of someone who has, who basically worships this white man and hates their own men. That's completely different from someone having the perspective of being, quote unquote, open-minded and opening their options. And, the odd thing about it is, man, a lot of these people, that, especially this particular person, I mean, she's going on and on about interracial this and, the black man is evil, and basically, just to sum it up, the black man is horrible. But yet this woman can't stop talking about black men, despite talking about how bad the black man is. I mean, apparently this woman hasn't found a successful relationship with a white man either, because if she did, I'm sure she'll be parading this guy around and bragging about him. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Again, this is just part one. Part two, I'm going to go into the numbers and all that kind of stuff. So y'all look out for that. Peace.